What's up, guys? ATXRC Addicts, Troy here again. Sitting here with a couple of the crawlers. Been sick for the last few days. It's show number 2 for today. I want to talk about buying, building, upgrading, just in general, being smart about purchases, stuff like that. I want to start off by saying a couple of things. In my opinion, I would never trade, especially on Facebook. Maybe in real life with people I know, but for me, it just isn't something I really care to do. A few reasons is I don't think I'm going to get full value necessarily. I mean, it's that rare that I'm going to get the value that I want and then I'm going to find exactly what I want for it. 2, never will I do this online because I don't know who the heck I'm doing anything of this with. There's no legal precedent, really. Do people sometimes get their stuff back? Sure. But I'm not going to put myself at risk if it's something that I can't, 100% guarantee. So, in my opinion, don't do any Facebook trading, guys. I see it end in tragedy more than I see it end in success. And I hardly ever see anybody say, oh my gosh, look at this incredible deal, because it's just not going to happen. That being said, selling on Facebook, buying on Facebook, not so bad. I sell on Facebook quite a bit, but I don't think I've ever really bought, except for from like legit companies that sell off of Facebook, basically. And that's just because, again, I just keep myself safe, man. You are in control of your own safety. You make your own decisions. Don't go trade with somebody, send them your vehicle, and then get on Facebook and talk about how you got shafted and it's your fault. Like, I'm sorry, it's your fault. That's all I'm going to say about it. So let's get off of that. That all being said, people that know me know that I'm opinionated. May not know really why or how I got into this or how long I've got, what experience I have, but I will quickly say that I've been back in the RC game, and I mean that by I'm a 35-year-old man, a husband, father, full-time job as a restaurant manager. Got back into this about 3 years ago. Had a little bit of disposable income at the time. Well, more than a little bit, but a little bit more than I thought. Found myself, I don't know, looking at a Traxxas. I mean, not looking at, but looking for something, and I ended up getting a Traxxas Slash. Got an RTR. I don't remember which one. It was like, I don't remember. That thing I dumped a ton of money into. I made it into a low CG, STRC kit, RPM everything. Basically, the only thing Traxxas I think on it in the end was like the diffs and maybe the shaft and the spur gear. That's about it. Anyways, after that, that was my go fast. I never really loved it. Won a lottery scratcher, and I ended up buying a Wraith. It was an RTR kit. I mean, RTR, not kit. It's what really got me smart about RC, because quickly is how I learned that I was already on ultimaterc.com, and I fell into the crawler category now, so I got over there, and that's where I really met the people that influenced me and got me where I am now. A lot of great guys back then. Still are quite a few, but I'll name just a couple. Andy Mack disappeared a while ago. I don't know if he's back or not. I've been gone for a while. I was death trot, by the way. But Frostman, Neil, you already know, but I basically followed your lead. You were about 6 months ahead of me, I think, in getting into this thing, and he had already built a Wraith Punisher, which was an insanely awesome Wraith variation that he did off of a Wraith kit. Tons of stuff. He gave me tons of info. But just before I met him, I put a thread up about how I won this money and I got a Wraith and blah, blah, blah. What should I do? So the first answer was a Hobby Wing 60 amp ESC and a Tac-On 3500 non-censored brushless motor. They're little green cans. Pulled the trigger, bought it. Got it a couple days later. Tossed it in, and guess what happened? 3 minutes into my run, I realized that I got not bamboozled, but I listened to the wrong guy. I didn't have the patience, and I didn't do any research, and I had a non-censored motor that was cogging. Even geared low, it still just wasn't doing what I wanted it to do. So pulled it, sold it. I think I lost 15 bucks on it. And that's where RC renting came into my mind. From then on out, I decided that I would listen to anybody that I found credible. And by credible, I meant I would do a little more research on that person. I would ask some more questions. Somebody said, "Hey, you should do this." I'd say, "Okay, well, do you do it? Can you show me, why, or tell me why or how? Do you have anything, make me really want to do this?" And that's when Neil came into play. Met Neil, and I followed him in and out of different genres, man. I won't even get into it because it'll take forever, but not only did I basically get into the crawlers and do a lot of what he did crawler-wise, I also followed him into buying an MT4. I followed him into buying a, what were they? What was it, Neil? The Tamiya, the Truggy, man. The 801 XT, I think. Yeah. Yeah, and then I even bought a associated RC 8.2 after he found a ridiculous deal on one. Neil has the greatest luck. Anyways, him and a couple of the other guys, man, really guided me through a lot of the good stuff. And I just made sure that I asked questions. I made sure that I also did my own research. I don't just listen to the guys that tell me the answers. I go and look it up after, find video, find pictures, see if it works. And then I look for the best price. That being said, I took a Wraith and went from RTR into just crazy variations. I did an HR chassis that was an AX10 Scorpion chassis that I put all Wraith stuff on. It was ridiculously awesome. It was actually my favorite Wraith variation, and one day I will rebuild it. I then got an Ultra 4 chassis from Lou at Mattzilla. A few weeks after that, he announces that he had the Wraith, not the Wraithzilla, the Ultra 4. A few weeks later, he announces the Wraithzilla. And a few weeks later, he accidentally makes the WZR. Those that know that story is actually kind of funny about how he ended up reversing the cage on accident. So I took my Wraith from zero to literally completely absurd. Nothing else could be upgraded on it, and it performed amazing. I was super happy with it. The only thing was along the way I built the Tundra. The Tundra was actually my very first kit build. So I bought I really wanted this Tundra body. This is what started it, is I kept seeing Tundras and they were just awesome. I've always liked what the Tundra looks like in person as well. So I decided I was going to build one. Went and picked up a Rubicon kit. Picked up a bunch of other little parts and odds and ends at the time. And started building it. Now, when I built it, this was probably my first smart build. Well, I mean, it was my smartest build up until the Yeti. So when I built this thing, like I said, I used the Rubicon kit. Now, I could have used the Dingo kit, and the Dingo kits at the time were around 220, and the Rubicon was right around 300. However, there was a reason I chose the Rubicon kit, and it's kind of the premise of being smart, which is, it's the premise of this show, which is to be smart. So what I knew about the Rubicon was it was more desirable as far as the body, and I knew that the body at the time was selling for $80 on eBay. I also knew that the links and the wheelbase was more desirable at the time, and that the links that came with the kit would sell for about 30 bucks. I also knew that the shocks, being Icon shocks, though they're not that great, whatever you say, guys, I get it. Y'all like them. If you like them, you like them. If you don't, you don't. Me, I don't. I knew that they actually would also sell for about 35 or 40 bucks. So I then had the axles and all of the internals there because I knew from my Wraith that I really wanted to build a badass crawling SCX-10 custom. I don't mean that I manufactured every part. No, I did do a lot of, homebrew building and, coming up with ways to fix this or attach this. But what I mean is I really wanted to start off with all the good stuff. So I took a $300 kit. I sold an $80 body for $70 because I just undercut everybody and it sold in like 10 minutes on eBay. I sold all the wheels and tires. The wheels and tires sold for $50. So we're at 130. I sold the axles and all of the internals for I think $80 maybe for both sets. No, $100 for both sets. So we're at 230. And the links sold for I think 30 and the shocks sold for 30. So that's $290. I basically got the chassis, the shock towers, and a couple other little bits and pieces for like $10. Oh, I kept all the bumpers and all that stuff just for later. And down the road, I ended up actually selling those too. So basically, I parted out the kit and made all my money back and kept the parts that I needed. So then I took that money and I went and bought Curry axles. Now I'm broken even. Now I went and bought some Ultra Shocks. Oh wait, no I didn't, because I bought a set of 8 for the Wraith, and I knew that I was doing a high lift, and I knew that those same Ultra Shocks from the Emax would work here. Not Ultra Shocks, I'm sorry, Big Bores, the aluminum ones. I then decided to make my own links. I bought VP Stage 1 kit, essentially. Servo, motor, body. The body was actually the most expensive part. Wheels and tires. Put it all together. This truck, though it's technically worth whatever it's worth, and you guys know what it's worth, I paid a fraction of the cost for it because I did it smart. Now, look, the way it sits now, I spent a lot more money on it, obviously, and I fine-tuned it, and I refined it, and I did this, and I did that. But for the time when I built it, it was a really, really, really budget build, but I ended up with a very high-end rig. So that's the Tundra. It's my baby. Just so you know, it will never be sold. I said that about the Wraith for a little while, but again, I had it was an RTR, and not only that, but I always kind of wanted it to be something else. This will always be in the family. Future build, twist to it, reboot, coming very soon. Lou, keep an eye out for your mailbox tomorrow. You might have something special. All right, so we got the Tundra out the way. Now, all that stuff that I learned from the Tundra, I've continued to put forth into other vehicles. I haven't built a lot of other stuff, but I did do, like I said, the RC8. I did do the 801 XT, and I did do, I don't remember, something else, a couple other things. Oh, MT4. All of those vehicles, I basically rented, and whatever I had put into them, as far as buying them, building or upgrading or whatever it took to keep it going, and then selling them, I know that the absolute most that I lost was 30%. On the RC8, I actually lost $25 total. And that's after buying it, putting a motor and ESC in it, buying about $100 worth of spare parts, and then selling basically all the spare parts because I never broke anything. The buggy itself, which I got at an amazing deal. I got it for $330, brand new assembled RC8 kit, Team Factory Edition. That's a $600 kit, dang near. Assembled, ready to go with a brand new Savox servo as a roller and a painted custom body. $330 shipped from eBay. Yeah, that was a deal. Put a $100 ESC, a $60 motor in it, $100 worth of spare parts. You do the math. $600. I kept the motor and the ESC, so take 160 back out of it. $440. I sold it for $475. Or I'm sorry, $425. Yeah, that was a steal. So I did all that, and when the Yeti got released or announced, it was quite simple what I wanted to do. I took the Mattzilla Wraithzilla And I wanted to get rid of all of it that I could, keep what I know I needed, and basically buy myself a Yeti. And I also wanted to buy Lou over at Mattzilla a Yeti so he could take it, use it to build me a chassis, keep the roller, or I mean, keep the electronics and sell them, and then keep the roller so he could redesign and do more stuff with it. So that's what I did. I pre-ordered 2 of them. He said he'd make me a cage. We were going to come up with something, but it was going to, obviously take some time. He needed to get it, blah, blah, blah. We were going to do some back and forth. He wanted to see what else was going to be done with it. So we did. I actually pulled the plug on it, and the only reason I pulled the plug on it was by time everything was shaking out, I had decided that I no longer wanted a cage for it. Now, the reason is simple. I had already upgraded it to a point to where I was very, very happy with it for what I wanted. And I knew that adding a steel cage to it was going to make it a little more top heavy and possibly not what I wanted. So why waste all that time and energy for Lou to make a cage when it ended up not being what I probably would want in the end? So I told him to hold off on that. We got some other things going to come in the works instead. So what did I do to upgrade my Yeti? Well, I'll tell you right now, because of my Tower Savers Club membership, which if you don't have, you should, I saved $60 on this thing. So I paid $370 for it. I knew out the box that I didn't want the motor in the ESC because I had an MMXP already from the Raizilla. And I knew that, I'm sorry, let me backtrack. I parted the Raizilla out, just so you know, for just over $1,000. Now, I didn't get everything back out of it that I had into it, but I got a really good value out of it compared to trying to sell it all as a whole, which I had it down to, I think, $575 or $625, and nobody would buy it. So sold it all in parts. I kept the lockers, the F1 spools, the heavy-duty gears. I kept the wheels, which are the same wheels here. They're almost 2.5 years old. I kept wheels, lockers, diffs. Oh, man, I think that just might be about it. Everything else went. The Curry axles, I could have kept a rear one because I knew I'd put a Curry on this, but I decided that if I would keep one, then who was going to buy just one? So I sold them as a set and blah, blah, blah. For the Curry axle housings, the knuckle, the chub, and the VVDs, I lost about $75 to $100 from the original purchase price by selling them used, and they were 2 years old almost. So, again, smart. So this gets released. They start showing what it's about. I knew the motor in the ESC would be worth a good amount of money. I knew I could get $150 probably, but I knew if I listed it for $125, $135, it would sell pretty quick. Guess what? It sold in about a day and a half. I sold it for $130. I then took the rear axle, kept it. I took out a couple other things, the servo, and I kept it for down the road. The electronics and the radio and the RX, sold it for $45. So do the math, I'm already up to $175. So I paid $370 and I made $175 so far. So we're already under $200 for basically a roller. I sold the wheels and tires straight out the box. $55 or $60. So, okay. Now we're at like $130 and I have a Yeti waiting on electronics, wheels and tires, and a rear axle. All right. Buy a rear axle, $130. Buy some wheels and tires I actually already had, except for the Voodoos, $80. Motor, I went ahead and went with a Hobby Wing 2250. Well, first I went with a Pro 4 HD. I didn't really like it, so I rented it, and I sold it for about $20 less than what I paid. No, I think I sold it for $15 less than I paid for it, because I actually used a coupon from Tower, and I got $20 off. So when I ended up selling it for, ended up like a loss of $10. Put a Hobby Wing 2250 motor in it. I think it was $80, and I put a $100 Hobby Wing 150 amp ESC. Now, that ESC came out of the RC8. So when I sold the RC8, I actually didn't sell it with the motor or the ESC, and I still made my money back on it, if you remember that story. So I still have a $60 motor sitting in the bin, and I now put that ESC in here after I pulled the MMXP from the Rayzilla because it and the Tekken just wasn't doing very well for me. Um, Anyways, so 130, we're back up to 260 with the axle, $80 there, 310. I had the wheels. ESC, it was in the box. I bought a motor for 80. I don't know where we at. We're at like $400, right, guys? Yeah, I mean, basically, add another $200 worth of axial upgrades, which is the motor mount, the shock mounts, the lower link mounts, basically everything, the steel spur, and then add in the Wordy Made bumper, which was the prototype Wordy Made 001 there, guys. Thanks, Wordy, Matt. Yeah, that's about it. I already had the RXs from all my other trucks. Had a servo. The Savox servo that I had was out of the Wraith. I don't know, man. I got maybe $600 tied up in this thing. And all of that money, again, basically came from buying and selling stuff. I only have a couple $100 into it myself. So everybody wants to, talk about, oh, you spend all this money and you do all these huge fancy upgrades. But I'm not. I'm putting nice, good stuff on here, guys. But I'm doing it the smart way, okay? There's a way to do this. Make sure that what you're buying is good quality stuff. And the only way to do that, like I said before, ask questions, listen to the right people. And when I say listen, please listen. Look, you may not think that everybody has the right answer, but don't judge their answer or say their answer sucks until, again, you ask a follow-up question or two, Or don't take somebody's word for it until you ask a follow-up question or two. If you ask a question and you get an answer, the next answer things that you type or ask should be why. If they can't answer that, move on and find somebody else. But more importantly, again, listen. Make sure that you're not listening to the guy that just got a Wraith a couple weeks ago. I won't mention names, but this morning on Facebook, I look up and somebody that I'm friends with from another group is in a group talking about and makes a comment that an 18.5 turn Novak crawler motor is perfect for a Wraith. Look, is it perfect for a Wraith? My opinion, heck no. Is it okay for a Wraith? I don't even really care to answer that question because I honestly don't have that much experience with Novak. But I know some people that do. And as much as I respect Mr. ESP, Dog Rick, Joshua Kane Elliott, I personally, for my use and for the uses that the people that I know, they just aren't for us. That's not why I would say it's not the perfect motor. The reason it's not the perfect motor is it's a 18.5 turn and it's a very high KV and you're probably going to eat it up. Could it work? Possibly, for a very limited use. Anyways, my follow-up question, whenever that question was answered like that, was I knew the person that answered it, and I said, "How long have you had your Wraith, and how long have you had that motor in your Wraith? How many runs have you had?" Well, I knew the answer, and the answer was about 3 to 4 weeks and 3 to 5 runs. Would you listen to a guy that told you, yes, jump off this bridge and you'll make $1 million, and you said, okay, how many times have you done it? And he said, Come on, guys. You got to know who you're talking to, okay? Again, URC, RCC. I don't personally frequent RCC. It's just me. I just don't like the layout. It's nothing more than that, to be quite honest. The layout sucks. Sorry, guys. URC, I do like. I don't freak it as much just because I do spend so much stupid time on Facebook. These days, though, it's in the air game, so I'm okay with it. Anyways, basically, bottom line, what we're getting down to here is buy smart, drive smart, know what you're getting, know who you're talking to, and you can achieve a high dollar rig if you listen to the right people. Last thing, I'm not going to actually talk a bunch of trash about it, but Integy, Capu, GP, P is in Paul, M, GPM, TopCAD, Asia Tees. All of these brands are all under the same umbrella. When I say that, I mean that they're all made in the same factory. It's pretty much proven by everybody has compared all the parts and they all know they look basically exactly the same. All I'm going to say is the quality of those aluminum products is not on the same par as the American 7071s and the billets and all of that. Some of these parts are going to be cast. Some of them are machined. Some of them might work okay. It's hard to mess up a wheel and make it not really work well. You know what it is hard to do? Get an anodized coating on it that's going to last 3 years. That is a 3-year wheel. Well, 2.5. Serious off-roading done with that thing, okay? I've done it in the Wraith. I've done it in the Yeti. You're not going to get that out of a TopCAD, out of an Integy wheel. You're going to run that thing for a few months, and it's going to be scraped up to heck, and it's going to be losing its anodization. You're going to strip a hole or two eventually from opening it or unscrewing and screwing. All these things. There's a lot of flashy parts out there made by these guys. If you just stop and think about why they make all these flashy colors that nobody else makes, it might give you a reason as to why people keep buying their crap. It's their marketing plan, guys. They're trying to sell you the crap by making you not think about it and just be blinded by the shininess. Quit being blinded by the shininess. You're just making it more difficult for yourself. You're going to spend more money in the end, or at least the same amount of money. And then along the way, you're just going to fight with people over how good it is. I'm not trying to say don't buy anything from those places. I bought a few GPM parts for the MT4 because nobody else made stuff. And the parts I bought, they worked. I'm okay with that. I hear that Savages have some decent parts too from some of these companies. I also hear that Savages have some bad ones. Long story short, like I said, don't be distracted by shiny things. It's how people get hit by cars. It's how people fall off of cliffs. It's all kinds of reasons why people do all kinds of dumb stuff. So just don't be that guy. And I'll tell you what, I promise you, whether I knew if it was Integy or not, I've never seen one of these flashy purple or orange or bright, shiny green vehicles and gone, oh my gosh, I really want mine to look like that. That's just my opinion, guys. Take it, leave it, hate it, it don't matter. I speak the truth from my heart. I tell you how I feel. That's it. You ain't got to agree with it, man, and I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just telling you how I like it. So you guys have a great night. I hope you enjoyed the second show here. I think it turned out to be an entire show instead of a short recap like I thought it would be. But I hope you got a little more insight on how to buy, sell, trade smart. Don't trade. And a little more insight into me, guys. I really appreciate it. You guys keep on bashing, keep going up in the air, flying high, taking good pics and vids, and keep building, keep sharing, man. Pay it forward. You got parts in the bin you ain't never going to use. Got somebody ask questions, why don't you try offering them to them? Tell them to pay shipping. If you're not going to use those plastic bumpers, maybe that guy can. All right, guys. ATXRC Addicts out.